world has many diverse traditional cultures. Each country has its own distinct rules and customs. To ensure society operates smoothly, leaders of each country must establish regulations and laws. Among them, there are some extremely unique and interesting laws that cannot be found anywhere else. For example, prohibiting women from traveling abroad, forbidding showing sadness in public, or even banning chewing, and so on. These seemingly unreasonable bans actually have their own meanings. Additionally, there are many other absurd prohibitions that will surely surprise you greatly. All will be explored in our video about the 16 strangest and most unbelievable banned laws in the world. Ban on climbing trees. Has anyone experienced a lively childhood like mine? Ever climbed a tree to take a nap? Surely that feeling is very interesting and unforgettable, right? But when hearing about the law banning tree climbing, everyone will be surprised and confused. Because what's wrong with climbing trees that it needs to be banned? If there is a ban, it's only parents forbidding it for fear of their children falling, or that government agencies have to issue legal documents with strict penalties. If so, then we are completely mistaken. Even if you don't believe it, this ban law really exists and is quite famous in Osawa, Canada. In it, the city's regulations clearly state, no one is allowed to interfere with trees or any part of trees within the city limits, including climbing trees, attaching, hanging, or placing any objects on trees. This law was introduced to prevent citizens from acting like Spider-Man and ensure everyone's safety. Therefore, the city government has promulgated this regulation. So, when coming to Canada, don't be foolish enough to climb trees. It's best not to touch their trees, lest you bring trouble upon yourself. A newly proposed law in Nepal bans women from going abroad without permission from their family and local authorities. This proposal was put forward by the Immigration Department last week to prevent human trafficking. Accordingly, all women under 40 must seek permission when traveling to Africa or the Middle East for the first time. However, this proposal received negative feedback from Nepalese people and was called discriminatory. After criticism, the department stated that the law only applies to vulnerable women. Additionally, the Immigration Department emphasized that the proposal is not yet. Anyway, the introduction of this law, whether implemented or not, I find it truly absurd. What do you think about this law? This ban law is really too unreasonable. Surely many of you think so too, right? But in North Korea, jeans are not just clothing but also carry special cultural and political connotations. Seen as a symbol of imperialism, jeans here are not considered ordinary fashion, but rather a symbol of domination and influence from the West. The regulations on jeans in North Korea are citizens are only allowed to wear black jeans and are prohibited from wearing blue. This regulation reflects the government's control over foreign culture and efforts to maintain the country's cultural purity. However, this regulation does not apply to international tourists. Therefore, you can freely wear jeans of any color when visiting North Korea, before visiting monuments like the Kim Il-sung and Kim Jong-il memorials. At these places, wearing blue jeans might be considered disrespectful to the leaders, who are regarded as sacred and inviolable by the people. The regulations on jeans in North Korea also reflect cultural and ethnic distinctions between locals and foreign tourists. The restriction and control of blue jeans is a measure to protect the cultural and political purity of the North Korean regime. Folks, everything has its reason. No one would idly create a random ban law for no reason, right? Do not flush the toilet after 10 p.m. if you often wake up in the middle of the night to use the bathroom. This country might not be suitable for you. In Switzerland, flushing the toilet after 10 p.m. is considered illegal due to noise pollution. Therefore, if you want to live here, you should hold it in or wait until dawn to flush. Imagine using the toilet without flushing. What a terrible thing would happen, right? I really dare not think about it. However, wherever you live, you should respect and follow the local culture. Hopefully, in the future, Switzerland will change this ban so night owls like me can confidently visit. For now, I admit defeat. It is forbidden to appear sad in public. They ever heard, ISN. Because sadness or happiness is a natural emotion, and everyone has the free, so why ban it? But in the US, this law actually exists and is written down. The reason is that the people of Pocatello, Idaho, US, highly value smiles. So any other facial expressions are considered illegal. The origin dates back to 1948, when the area experienced a long and harsh winter. With 13 consecutive weeks of snowstorms due to heavy snow and deep temperature drop, this weather caused severe damage to crops and livestock, lowering the city's morale. After that gloomy event, Mayor George Phillip passed the Smile Ordinance. Accordingly, the Pocatello government criminalized frowning, negative expressions, or any similar facial feat. This was maintained for nearly half a century in Pocatello, although there were no clear penalties beyond a few days of detention. In a 1978 interview, the mayor at the time half-jokingly said, "LL take it seriously, we Smile King." Finally, in 1987, Pocatello was recognized as the Smile Capital of America. It's quite interesting, so sad people no longer need to worry. Swearing in public is prohibited. Surely you don't like this, and neither do I. When in Dubai, remember that using offensive or vulgar language to insult others is illegal and can lead to serious consequences. The culture and laws here highly value politeness and respect in communication, especially in public places like malls, complexes, and tourist spots. A typical example is the middle finger gesture, even if it's common elsewhere. In Dubai, it's considered provocative and can lead to fines, detention, or deportation for foreigners. Foul, insulting, or sarcastic words are also unacceptable. This not only violates the law but also infringes on others' dignity and respect. So, when in Dubai, always be aware of these rules and respect the local culture to avoid unnecessary trouble. If anyone hears about this law for the first time, they might find it funny because they think urinating can be banned, but why ban wearing shorts? This ban is strange, isn't it? But to explain this, the authorities claim there's a significant coincidence. Most people arrested for public urination are wearing shorts. Therefore, those wearing shorts are often pursued and strictly penalized by the Mexican government. Especially, foreign tourists tend to think they can urinate discreetly in public instead of finding a restroom. So, I advise you if you're in Mexico or planning to visit, try to hold it until you find a suitable restroom. This will help you avoid legal issues and not get arrested on the spot, just for such a thoughtless act. Actually, in Brazil, there are no specific laws related to flaunting wealth or showing off riches. However, this is still important advice when you set foot in this country. Because Brazil is one of the countries with the highest crime rates in the world. Therefore, flaunting personal property can make you a target for those with bad intentions. Wearing valuable jewelry like rings or necklaces when going out is also an unnecessary risk. They can attract the attention of pickpockets or robbers. The same applies to mobile phones or cameras. Instead of showing them off, you should keep them in your pocket and only use them when necessary. especially in crowded areas. Some practical advice when traveling in Brazil is to always be cautious and respect local cultures. Don't be foolish to display wealth or flaunt assets, especially in areas with signs of crime. Always protect yourself and stay safe in all circumstances. Don't let the situation where you leave carefree but return terrified. Unlike some developed countries in the world like our Vietnam, Indonesia is a country with an Islamic culture. So cohabitation or premarital relations are always considered serious legal violation. According to the laws of this country, those living together outside of marriage can be sentenced from 6 months to 10 years in prison or fined up to 10 million rupiah, equivalent to about 16 million. The Indonesian government worries that these behaviors will lead to social consequences like an increase in unsafe abortion rate. In particular, this country does not accept same-sex relationships, and people in the LGBT community face many restrictions and opposition from both. Additionally, it also has some impact on the tourism industry because unmarried couples are often the ones who violate the law the most. However, what's notable is that despite this, the country still maintains this ban for the benefit and image of the nation. This ban may sound a bit unreasonable, but I think it's quite practical. If our Vietnam had this law, how great would that be, right? Ban on chewing gum. Another ban that you might find really strange when you hear about it is the ban on chewing gum. Everything has its reasons, my friends. So what is the reason for this ban? Let's find out together. According to the Singapore government's decision, since 1992, the images and activities of selling gum have been officially banned in the Lion City. Since then, gum has been considered an illegal item in this country. Accordingly, those who sell and use gum can be fined up to 100 Singapore dollars, equivalent to 2.3 billion dong, or sentenced to 2 years in prison. It is known that this law reflects Singapore's concern for environmental protection. Because waste from gum takes many years to decompose, it greatly affects environmental sanitation. And in 2004, the law on gum use was relaxed. However, the Singapore government only allows the sale of gum that has health benefits, such as dental gum, nicotine gum to quit smoking, and sugar-free gum only. Have you ever been to Singapore? If you come here, you'll surely see how clean and beautiful this. Therefore, the ban on chewing gum is natural and understandable, isn't it? Ban on touching others' heads. You might not believe it, but in Thailand, rubbing or touching someone's head is not just a matter of hygiene, but also carries deep meanings of respect and ethics in Thai culture. The head is considered the most sacred part of the human body, where the soul and sanctity of each person reside. Head is a disrespectful act and can take away that person. Therefore, no matter how close the relationship, they do not rub anyone's head, not even children. As for tourists and foreigners, not understanding and not following this rule can lead to discomfort and feelings of offense from the local people. Thai people may react by looking at you with displeased eyes, or even express anger at your actions. Especially with those who are strict, the act of rubbing heads can cause bigger troubles, because they are very sensitive and care about maintaining their cultural values and traditions. Therefore, when visiting Thailand, showing respect and civility by being polite and avoiding actions that could be misunderstood. This helps you maintain good relationships and avoid cultural conflicts in daily interactions. In our Vietnam, rubbing heads is an act that shows affection, and I thought it was the same in every country. However, if anyone thinks the same as me, they are seriously mistaken. Women must dress a bit sexy to be beautiful. That's a thought that probably everyone thinks. But for Cambodia, it's not music. The management of clothing and attire in Cambodia has become a painful and controversial issue for especially when the application of these regulations spreads beyond temples and public places. You may all know that banning revealing clothing for temples is obvious and widely accepted. However, this issue arises when these regulations extend into daily life and professional activities like live stream sales. According to an RT article on August 1, 2010, Cambodian police are allowed to fine women wearing clothes that are too short, too transparent, and men going barefoot in public places, because Cambodian authorities believe these measures are to protect and maintain the country's traditional cultural values. However, these measures also face strong opposition from human rights groups. They argue that strictly imposing dress codes can lead to inequality and even unnecessary control over women. Cambodian Prime Minister Hun Sen has also spoken up, calling on live stream sellers not to wear outfits that are too offensive to the country's culture. This issue is not only about cultural preservation but also part of the debate on individual freedom and gender equality. Each individual and community has their own perspective on whether you support efforts to preserve traditional culture, or you think these regulations are excessive and hinder individual freedom. Please comment your opinion below for us to know. Ban on feeding pigeons. Feed the birds, what will they eat? Just watch them starve. This is a question But surely anyone who has visited Italy knows that the number of pigeons is really a problem at major tourist spots like Duomo Square in Milan or Siena Cathedral. Therefore, in 2008, the Italian government issued a ban on feeding pigeons in the famous St. Mark's Square in Venice, where pigeons are always waiting around and can potentially damage important national monuments. Accordingly, if anyone is caught feeding these pigeons, they can be fined up to $750, equivalent to 17.5 million Vietnamese dongs. With a meager salary like mine, it would take 3 months' pay to cover the fine. So, if any of you are lucky enough to travel to Italy, be very mindful of this ban, or you might end up eating instant noodle. Ban on forgetting wife's birthday. The world is full of forgetful husbands. But in Samoa, a country in the South Pacific, forgetfulness comes at a high price. Here, husbands are not allowed to forget their wife's birthday. If the wife complains about this terrible mistake to the police, the husband could be summoned by the police and even face jail time. Therefore, husbands in Samoa should keep their wives happy so that if they do forget the birthday, at least the wives won't report it to the police. But their best choice is to make their wives happy. Remember to wish them on their birthday, and buy them meaningful gifts. Hearing this, surely any woman would want to live here, right? Such a civilized country. Wouldn't it be great if we had such a law in Vietnam to deter forgetful husbands, right folks? Ban on changing light bulbs without permission. This law in Australia might surprise you, but it holds significant meaning. According to the law in Victoria, Australia, changing a light bulb without a proper license is considered a violation of the law. It is known that only licensed electricians are allowed to change light bulbs. And certainly, if you don't respect this law, you will be heavily fined. Specifically, how much the fine is, I'm not sure. Anyway, when in Australia, we still need to follow their laws. So, I think this information will be very interesting for those about to go to or return to Australia. If you own a dog in Turin, you must comply with a strict law. The law here requires dog owners to take their pets outside at least 3 times a day. Otherwise, you could be fined up to $650, about 15. The reason given is that Italy is known as an animal-loving country. And in many cities, pets, even stray cats, are protected by law. Therefore, this law was introduced to ensure the right of dogs to go outside and play. If you are a pet lover, especially dogs, you would probably agree with this ban, right? And of course, so do I. The world has countless mysteries and strange things we may never know about. And these bans are the same. Each country has its own unique color. No place is exactly like another. I hope the above bans have helped you understand more about the cultures of some countries in the And now, goodbye and see you again.